gone through is standing in line. The clubs I'll never get in. It's like the bottom of the ninth, and I'm never gonna.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another interview. I'm your host, Brian Gregory, alongside Chic Wilson, who owns Willard Mountain today. Chic, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
And I've got to remark, I am in my environments, I'm in my natural habitats, I'm really in my elements. I've really transitioned into being more of a lodge guy over the years. I was an avid skier when I was younger. I started when I was around 11, right here on Willard Mountain. This was where I learned the minutiae and nuances of skiing until I was 18 when I hung the skis up. I retired and I've officially converted into being a lodge guy. I mean, we've got a nice pellet stove over here and I'm really just feeling loose and relaxed and ready for an amazing conversation. So, the one question I have for you here, my grandfather, Ron Turcotte, is the starter at Freer Park Golf Course in Troy, but he's only golfed once in his entire life. He golfed one hole and then just stopped. He never golfed again, hated it. So as the owner of a ski mountain, do you yourself ski?
Yeah, I'm passionate about skiing. That's two edges to that question. Like your grandfather, I do not get a lot of time to ski at Willard. Okay, so when Willard, we're open 6 days a week. So on the day that we're not open and don't have race training, we go to another area and ski during the winter, my wife and I. And then we go out west every year and ski for 7 to 10 days. So half of our skiing is done in the east and half of it's done in the west.
Now, are mountains in the west operated differently than the east? Like what's different about the dynamic of a mountain in the Rockies than a mountain here on the eastern seaboard?
Well, most of them in the Rockies are corporately structured, corporately owned. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of ski areas in the east that are the same way. The difference between Willard Mountain and a western ski area, yeah, it's night and day. They're run differently. They're different. They're structured differently. They're actually, other than we ski and snowboard on them, there's very little similarity.
And do you ski at Aspen, Breck, Loveland? Where do you go in Colorado?
Colorado, California, Nevada.
Tahoe? Have you skied at Tahoe before?
There is no ski area called Tahoe.
There isn't?
No.
I was under the impression that there was.
Yeah, I thought so for years myself. There is no Tahoe. You go to the Tahoe region, and there's probably 10 areas in that region that you can ski. There is a Tahoe's ski area in New Mexico, but the Tahoe region is you're going to a region. Squaw Valley.
Squaw Valley, I've heard of that.
The Olympics were held.
Yeah.
Much as Lake Placid. But there's Kirkwood and Alpine Meadows and, like I say, Heavenly. Those are all situated around Lake Tahoe.
I do remember distinctly Squaw Valley. There's something about that rings a bell of familiarity to me. There's just something, even though I'm not a skier anymore, there's something about the industry and about the environment of a ski mountain that's just really treasurable, like the whole alpine feel. I love it. I love sitting in a hot tub and looking at a mountain. You know, there's something to appreciate about skiing and just the whole dynamic of it all. It's really cool.
Yeah, one of my most fond memories is sitting in a hot tub with a beverage in my hand.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And it's snowing, great big fat flakes that the West gets, and looking out over an alpine village has just stuck with me my whole life.
That's like a picturesque view. Did you
It
take a
really
picture of
is.
it? or-
I did not. That was before we all had cameras on our cell phones and stuff. You know, this was back in the 80s when that happened.
So the snapshot's in your mind, though.
Yeah.
You can't unsee it.
Yeah,
Where is that, by the way? Because I might have to take a look at that.
that's Breckenridge.
Breckenridge. That's like one of my favorite views, overlooking a village. You can't replicate it.
Yeah, yeah.
So Willard Mountain is commonly called the Bump because it's a smaller mountain where people go to learn the fundamentals of skiing and build their confidence as a skier. How does embracing your identity as a smaller mountain contribute to your consistent success every year?
Well, we wrestled long and hard with our size. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make that own ski areas, and there's few people that own ski areas now. They're all corporately owned and stuff, unless you're this size. Is coming to the identity of what you are. So we came up with New York State's coolest little ski area.
I like that tagline.
So that kind of sums up. You can argue the point, are we the coolest? That would be subject to everybody's interpretation. But that's what we strive to be. We think we've come pretty close to that. It's a fun little place, non-commercial. You can come here as an individual, you can come here as a family.
Yeah.
And have a good time and not necessarily break the bank.
That's true too, and that's important when you're learning to ski. I mean, you exactly don't want to get your ski legs under you at Whiteface Mountain or something along those lines. This is great for the fundamentals, and understanding your size actually gives you an opportunity to have more control, right? I mean, and it has to be more enjoyable for you as an owner. I mean, when you have this sprawling mountain, sometimes there's just so many moving parts that it can become overwhelming to control, right?
Yeah, it's nobody, I mean, not even one person can control all the aspects that happen. You know, we have 7 different departments here, and so basically what I do, I hire 7 different department heads. Then the department heads hire their staff.
Okay.
And we run about 250 people staff-wise.
Wow.
And 139 of which are instructors. So we're a local mountain, we're a teaching mountain. And as long as we don't lose sight of that, concentrate on those things, there's a strong need, there's a strong demand for the Willard Mountains of the world.
Yeah. That's who you are, that's your identity, and by fixating on that, you can really maximize yourself every year, as we've seen.
We hope to.
So how did you design the menu here at Willard Mountain? And in other words, how can you anticipate what skiers crave when they get off the slopes?
Food-wise,
Yes.
I hire a very good food service person, and in this case, she directs that. I'm not a restaurateur or I'm not schooled in restaurant management or anything. So I hire a department head that oversees that. She pretty much sets the menus and everything.
Now, is she affiliated with a catering company, or is she more along the lines of Cisco?
She was a Stewart's employee.
Stewart's.
Stewart's a manager, and then a Cisco. I don't know if she had a manager's position at Cisco, but certainly a sales person at Cisco.
Okay.
And has her own business now in Cambridge. That's a greenhouse, floral shop. They're hoping to do ice cream also. So it's a nice tie for someone like me to have somebody that has a summer occupation and hopefully doesn't make so much money that they can go to Tahiti all winter, are looking for a little something to tide them over. And we're a good tide. I hope that we can hold on to her for a long time.
And so does she design the menu here?
She does.
That's her job, because that's one thing I found is that when I ski here when I was younger, there's something about this menu that just really hits when you come in here. I mean, the pretzel sticks, the blue cheeseburger, it's just, there's something about it that just hits the sweet spot. It's like tantalizing when you get off the mountain. It's so good.
But there's a huge difference in the way food service is run this year than it was run last year or in years past. And it's just simply dealing with the COVID regulations.
Well, you can only have so many people in this room at one time, right?
Yeah, this room, we simply have eliminated half the tables, half the chairs. And you sit, but food, what do they say, a third of your experience is a presentation to food. And food is given to you this year in a paper box.
Yeah, certain places, yeah.
Well, it is here.
It's here?
That's because it has to be covered when the food is brought into this area.
I didn't know that regulation applied to you guys, because most restaurants I go to, it's delivered like it usually is, but then when it comes to certain establishments like ski mountains and schools or another one, I remember from being in college last semester, when you order at one of the restaurants affiliated with the school, it has to be in a plastic box. It can't be open. So it's strange, the different applications of rules that might have to be covered here, then they're open at other places.
Well, remember, there are rules that the state mandates.
Yeah.
There are rules that the federal government mandates, and then there are rules that I mandate.
And that's one.
And I may be exceeding the requirement, but because to go from our kitchens where the food is prepared, you have to come through a little corner of the lodge to get into this building.
I see.
Because of that, I felt that it would be prudent if we covered the food.
So you want to have your protection going through the
Yeah,
space.
so we may be, in that one instance, we may be even exceeding the requirements.
There's nothing wrong with ensuring that you're safe. That's smart.
Absolutely.
So you're the general manager of a ski mountain out in western New York. Now, speaking from that experience, how does one enter the ski mountain industry?
Everyone is different. This has been my occupation since a kid in high school. When I was a junior in high school, I started working in a rental shop at a ski area.
And was that western New York too?
It was Labrador Mountain. I was 21 years there, and I worked from a young person in the rental shop to the assistant general manager. And, in the course of 21 years, was exposed to all the variety that this industry offers. This is like running 7 different, remember I said we had 7 different department heads? It's like 7 different businesses, because they're all unique to themselves. And then they're unique because they certainly do tie together. But anyways, so there from a rental shop to an assistant general manager, which was just because of the structure of the family, was as far as I was going. Great experience. I loved it. Labrador Mountain has a reputation for being, over the years, for being an extremely well-run family type of a mountain.
And they gave you great autonomy. You know,
Yeah.
you moved from giving lessons in high school to becoming a general manager, and then when you have that position, you accumulate enough financial capital, enough money to where you can buy Willard Mountain like you did. So Labrador Mountain really gave you the opportunity to set that foundation for yourself.
Yeah, really, the capital came from, my wife and I built a house in Greenwich, Colorado.
Really?
Back in the 80s, right when the boom was hitting. And it's, you know, in a person's lifetime, you have things that don't work out and things that do work out. And we hit that market perfectly. So we made out well enough on that house to allow us to start, and we're in the ski business because I want to be. My wife, bless her heart, has supported me in my endeavors, and she's, everybody loves my wife. She's just one of those people that there really is nothing not to like. She's salt of the earth, good people. I'm lucky that she picked me out of a big pool of people. But that's what allowed us to have enough capital, not to buy an area, but to put down enough money to show some serious concern. I'm not going to be able to go and buy a Stratton Mountain or a Killington, you know, individual ownership. We call them mom and pop ski areas.
Yeah.
Ski areas that are owned by a couple. They're like Willard. You know, they're this size.
They're smaller.
Yep.
But they're just small enough, just big enough to where you can effectively control, do your job, have your departments,
Yeah.
and execute.
And what a great way to make a living.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this business. I can't think of anything that I would have rather done. And now that I'm in my retirement years, I'm old enough to retire. There aren't many of my friends that can say that. So I consider myself very lucky.
That you can just detach and...
No, that I feel that I'm very lucky that I chose this occupation, or maybe this occupation chose me. I'm not sure.
You're wealthy. I mean, you pursued what you intended. You fulfilled your intentions, and you're right. I mean, there's not a lot of people that can truly say that. I hope and pray every day that I can when I'm older.
I hope you can too.
But when you can say that your aspirations came into fruition in your life, which maybe about 15-20% of people can, that's something to really treasure.
Willard is available. When we get done with this interview, you and I will talk.
Yeah, you know, you and I can talk, you know, contracts and I'm down. So Breckenridge, was that a bed and breakfast that you owned now?
No, just a residence.
Just a residence,
Just
okay.
a nice residence. But Colorado experienced a huge boom in real estate, and the ski area business out there is nothing like it was when we were familiar with Colorado. It's big commercial, big business, beautiful ski areas.
Oh, so your house like blew up in value then?
Yes,
It exploded in value from when you bought it to when you sold it, and then that's how you...
We built
Yeah.
it, so we
That's
didn't
right.
buy it.
That's right, you built it.
Yeah, we built it. So it was just a way to, and it's done today. It's just a way to amass some capital. You know, we have a tendency that if it's in a savings bank somewhere, we have a tendency to increase our standard of living. You know, we drive better cars, we have a better house. But if it's intangible, like a building or a house, then that you can't touch, then it's a way to accumulate some dollars to be able to put a deposit on something this size.
And that investment was worth it, as it helped you in purchasing Willard Mountain, which is where you've been for the past 25 years, and like you say, you're extremely fulfilled by it. It's almost like buying a house in Lake Placid in the 70s before the 1980 Olympics came along. I mean, that city just completely, or village I should say, completely expanded.
Yeah. After
After 1980, all these hotels that you see along the strip, like the Golden Arrow and the Halfpipes, that they were all constructed for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And they're still flourishing to this day because of the spotlight provided by the Olympics and the miracle and the story behind that.
Take that and multiply it by 10,
And that's Breck.
and that's maybe Breckenridge.
Wow.
You know, it's just, and the truth of the matter, that was just dumb, stupid luck.
Yeah, I mean, you can't anticipate that. It just happened. It
Real
just
estate
exploded.
values could have gone down.
And they happened to skyrocket in your
Yep.
favor.
Yeah.
So how has the emergence of snowmaking changed the landscape of the skiing industry?
Tremendously. There are very, very few ski areas in this country that don't have snowmaking. There are a few out west,
Yeah.
but there's no one on the East Coast. I think I know one or two exceptions to that. It's snowmaking that allows you to be a viable business.
Yeah.
You need, if you want to survive and thrive and make capital expenditures, you need to show some consistency in your business. That's what snowmaking gives us. Without that, we'd be subject to Mother Nature. We all know that Mother Nature gives us good years, good snow years, like we've had this year.
Yeah.
She gives us very, very poor snow years.
Like last year.
Yep. And snowmaking kind of evens that. You know, you end up with a very jagged line when you look at winters like that are variable. Snowmaking kind of evens that jagged line out. So, in 50 years, I've never been in this business where we couldn't make snow. And we have good snowmaking years, we have bad snowmaking years, but we always have snowmaking.
And it's all about being available. And I use this analogy when it comes to sports. I mean, there's some quarterbacks out there like Jimmy Garoppolo for the 49ers who are consistent and valuable when they're available, but he's often hurt. He's missed 23 games in his, what was it, 4-year career, Zeke? So it's all about being available, and snowmaking gives you the opportunity to be available, because if you're not, I mean, there's competition around here too. You've got West Mountain, you can go up to Gore, you can go over to Jiminy Peak. Like there's dense competition here. So being available is just that much of a strength to keep you guys moving. Oh yeah.
It's a necessity.
So ski mountains are typically owned by equity firms or ownership groups. However, you and your wife Chris assumed ownership of Willard Mountain, which is fascinating because it's so unconventional in your industry. So, what is the dynamic of operating a ski mountain like, and how do you guys make it work?
Boy, that's a tough question. I guess I would start by saying it primarily is just hard work, effort, and passion. It's being passionate about what you do. in the summer, which for my wife and I is 6 months long, because we have a retail shop that opens in September and we go till April. Our winter is 6 months long. So 6 months long, we are both married to this business. Chris is married to her responsibilities. I'm married to my responsibilities. And we really don't step on each other's toes too much. That took a long time to get to that point.
Well, yeah.
Okay, but we've, this is our 49th year of marriage, and 49 years I've been in the, I've been in the ski business. When we had our children, Chris did not work in the ski business. She was a wonderful mother, and I was a wonderful father for 6 months out of the year. The other 6 months, they saw me when they came to go skiing.
Yeah.
And we had a good time, and I would hope that our kids would say they had a good upbringing. But if there can be no other reason, we're not, we don't have degrees in recreational management, or we're not schooled, we're passionate about it, we try to pay attention, we work hard at it. If Chris and I can do it, I'm somewhat under the mind that most people could do it. But it does take a husband and wife team to pull it off.
So a lot of the knowledge associated with owning and operating a ski mountain comes from acquired knowledge then, right?
And in my case, yes. Yeah. I was, like I say, I've done this for 55 years, I guess.
And you go every day, you absorb information, you acquire knowledge, and this is a massive task here. I mean, like I said before, there's a lot of moving parts. So having a partner in it, your wife, I mean, that really facilitates it for you.
Yes, I mean, it's kind of an odd balance, and I won't say that we haven't had our ups and downs.
Yeah.
When it comes to the business. We have our disagreements, but like most marriages, as long as she gets her way, everything's good.
And it does take years to work out those kinks, right? I mean, understand each other, because you can have chemistry in a relationship, but having chemistry when it comes to working together cohesively in a business, that's an entirely different dynamic on its own. That's an entirely different animal.
And I was completely, I hope my wife gets to see this, because she'll get a chuckle out of me saying that as long as I agree with her. Remember, we're in this business because it's a passion that I have. My wife is just, she lets me run this. If she disagrees with something, she backs me up 200%, and extremely hard worker, and I know you just gotta file that in luck category again.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how I could have got a partner that would be more flexible than she is.
And supportive.
Very.
Now, does she challenge you too? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, if she disagrees with you on something, does she challenge you on it? Just to guarantee that you're being your best every day, and Willard Mountain is maximizing itself.
As with all good people, I want to say yes. She's fairly hands-off with with, like I say, she's a viable, critical part of of the business, but she kind of lets me do my thing.
So there's a lot of trust which has been developed
Yeah.
over the past
Yeah.
25 years.
Yeah.
And when you leave your hands off of someone and trust them in their abilities, they flourish because it's illustrating to you that they trust you, and when you feel that trust, you're that much more willing to be your best and perfect what it is you're doing.
Yeah, I'm sure to some extent
Yeah.
that is true. I know that Chris makes me want to be a better person in life and in business. But she doesn't. She does that without physically knowing she does it.
Yeah, it's almost like an inspiration. Every day it galvanizes you. It makes you be your best because you have that much trust in your relationship, which is amazing. So temperament is important, and your presence changes the temperature of any room that you walk into at Willard Mountain. How does that supplement the at-home enthusiasm that visitors feel every time they come to Willard?
Well, I'm not sure as I'm the person that can answer that. I think you would have to ask, the customers here. And then, my staff, depending on the involvement that I have with them. Basically, I have a day-to-day relationship with my department heads. And then I try to know all my employees. I'd be lying to say that I have accomplished that. I try to know all my employees by name. I know all my employees. I don't know all of them by first name. There's 250.
There's 250, yeah. That's more than my graduating class.
Yeah, as much as I wish I could do it, and it would be a wonderful thing if I could. I acknowledge everybody. I know by face who's an employee, who's not. But I think they're the ones that would have to answer that question. A little self-serving to me to think that I change the temperature of a room when my presence is there.
Because I felt
I'm not
it.
sure as that's the case.
When I went back to get my hot chocolate a couple weeks ago when I was here tubing, and I just felt it with your employees. I felt the energy when you walked in the room. Like it made a noticeable difference. So I want to know if that would have any impact on customers here. They see that. They see you walk in the room and the warmth that you're radiating, and it gives them a feeling to come back again.
Yeah, and I'm sure, because I've talked with customers that have said that, that does exist. It's just, it's hard for me to explain that side of it. It's not something I consciously do or consciously try to work on. It's just something that happens. To what degree, like I say, I'm not the right person to ask.
That's more of a customer question, and it's just with certain people you have charisma and it just naturally radiates. You can't control it, and you do it without knowing it. So as snowboarding continues to expand as a sport, have you entertained installing a half pipe for snowboarders at Willard Mountain?
No.
No.
Half pipes. Snowboarding is a big conversation. The only reason I say no, because of our physical size. Their half pipes take, I would have to double my snowmaking output at an astronomical expense to blow up a half pipe, to shape a half pipe that minuscule amount of my customer base could utilize.
That's true.
And it's kind of true everywhere. Some ski areas like Stratton that subscribe to the, if I build it, they will come. And indeed, that seems to work for them. They have a very high population of snowboarders because they have a very elaborate park. They've got 2 beautiful pipes.
Yeah.
And they do a good job at running it. But they have the room, they have the expanse to do it. Like I say, a half pipe in a Willard Mountain scenario just, to me, just does not make sense.
And you're also catering more to your base, because that is one thing that I observed when I skied here, is that there's substantially more skiers than there are snowboarders here. So when you measure, your marginal cost and your marginal benefit, I mean, there's a lot more cost, like you said, with financing, making the snow, and then executing it and maintaining it than there would be people using it. Whereas at larger mountains like that, Stratton, Killington, you've got more snowboarders and you have space to construct.
Just remember, half pipes, features like that are not just for snowboarders. Skiers with twin tip skis, which is a huge segment of the market now. They're skis that are bent on both ends, much in the way that a snowboard is. So a skier can do everything that a snowboarder can do. It's just a different, there are people that are snowboarders and there are people that are skiers. When these young people come in here and ask about lessons, I can't look at somebody and tell if they're inclined to be a snowboarder or inclined to be a skier. You have to try both.
Yeah, this is something that
see what clicks. My wife, when we had children at home, skied. I would say she wasn't passionate about skiing, but she skied, and we skied with our children. We had a good time. We would take ski vacations to Vermont and have granola in the gondola at Mount Snow.
That was a good ride.
That
Granola
was
in the gondola.
Yep, and that was to this day, that's a big thing within our family. It means nothing to anyone else, other than it rhymes. Then she tried snowboarding, passionate about it, just loved snowboarding, couldn't get enough of it. I would be pushing out a trail for first snow to get us open for a season, and I'd be coming down the hill in a groomer, and she'd be out there with her board and her thumb up in the air looking for a ride to go up. Just passionate about snowboarding.
Really?
And remained that way when we came here. They allowed snowboarding, but they didn't promote it. They didn't have snowboard rentals. They didn't have snowboarding lessons, but they did allow snowboarding. They didn't have any rails. They didn't have any jumps that were shaped for a snowboarder.
So snowboarding is something that you guys adapted to throughout the years.
Correct.
Like it resurrected later on than skiing. And like I mentioned before, that it's still expanding to this day. Like it becomes more popular every year. And then everything associated with it, like half pipes.
Yeah, statistically, snowboarding has taken a little bit of a hit because of the twin tip skis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Twin tips have started to eat into the market.
So that's like skiing second wind then, kind of, is twin tips.
It was, I truly do not care if somebody snowboards or somebody skis. If they come down the hill and have a smile on their face, I'm happy.
That's all that matters to you.
Enjoy yourself, have a good time, whatever it is. The ski industry, people who are making ski products, they didn't like that. Okay, they don't want people snowboarding, they want people skiing. These are the ski manufacturers, the people who are making your boots, your skis, stuff like that. They still want you skiing.
So this is like Rossignol.
Yeah, yeah.
So why didn't Rossignol like reinvent themselves and start making a snowboard? Because couldn't
They all, Rossignol makes a snowboard.
Yeah.
They all have, but in the interim, they came out with shaped skis, much more comfortable boots. I mean, the boots that we have now versus 25 years ago are night and day difference.
I notice a difference.
The skis are so much easier. And all of that technology came from snowboarding. It's why people were migrating from skiing to snowboarding, was because the boots were more comfortable. You could actually carve a snowboard kind of right out of the box almost if you knew what you were, how to apply your weight to the board correctly.
Without sharpening it.
And that's something that a skier had to work on for years and years before he or she could carve a turn on a conventional, on a straight pair of skis. Well, now it's shaped, it's just like a board. You put it on edge, you weight it, that changes the curvature of the skis, and you're carving a turn. Very, very easy.
And you also, you only have one like structure that you're worrying about. You don't have two. When you're skiing, you have two like items on your feet that you have to be concerned about. When you're snowboarding, you only have one. Everything's all connected. That's one thing that kind of freaked me out because my feet are staying stationary. They're locked into this one board. But that's an argument against skiing is that you have two items on your feet that you're worried about. If this one gets tangled and this foot keeps going, I mean, the injury resulting from that can be catastrophic.
It's tomato.
Yeah.
I unfortunately am not a passionate snowboarder.
Mm-hmm.
I can snowboard. I'm passionate about skiing.
Yeah.
I just could never align myself to falling with my feet tied together.
That was the one thing for me.
So when you say skiing and having to deal with both feet, my experience was not having that flexibility of dealing with both feet. But I think it's why some people are skiers and some people are snowboarders.
Well, yeah, I always felt like I had more finesse when I fall, when I ski than when I snowboard, because you can plan out how you're going to land, and you're not as timid, you're not as rigid. When you're in a snowboard, you're rigid, your feet are together. I mean, you're going to fall how you're going to fall. You may face plant, you may fall on your back. It's just whatever angle you're at, you're going down. So the one thing that I wanted to ask you, so I always hear mountains referred to as ski mountains. Why haven't I ever heard of a snowboard mountain?
The industry.
Mm-hmm.
We wrestled with this for a number of years. We just have evolved to the point where a ski area implies now
That's a
that
snowboard.
it's a ski
Yeah.
snowboard.
Okay.
There are two ski areas in this country that don't allow snowboarding, and they're both out west. And why I don't know. They're sticking to some standards. There are a couple of things that snowboarders do that skiers find bothersome, but they're not doing it intentionally. It's the nature of the snowboard.
Yeah.
When skiers stop, they stop up and down the hill because we can look like this and talk to each other. Snowboarders, when they stop, have to stop across the hill and sit on their butts with their back up the hill.
Yeah.
Skiers find that
Irritating.
irritating. I almost said offensive. I don't think it's offensive. I think they're concerned that it's really not a safe way to stop on the hill.
Yeah.
But it's the nature of the snowboard that's how they have to stop. They're not doing it to be rude or courteous or anything like that. It's just the nature of the board.
It's just different. You know?
Just different.
It's just different by nature, and I think that it's just adjusting your mentality to fit to it. Like if there's snowboarders now, it's different than how we do it as skiers, but then eventually that mutual respect develops.
And then we go back to the half pipe issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult for me to have a high density of people who are 5 years old to 12 years old, and then have another large density of 19-year-old males who are 30 feet in the air, 120 feet downhill, and blend those two together.
Yeah.
It's, everybody wants to be everything to everybody. I think that's a difficult road to walk.
Yeah.
Unless you're large enough. Mount Snow has a whole separate mountain that's primarily snowboarding or twin tip skiers. So unless you're large enough to be that way, and we are not, then you got to define what you're going to be.
Okay.
And we're kids and family.
That's your identity, like we discussed in the first question. And I want to highlight the story, building off of how there's so many different personalities when you're in a half pipe or you're in a terrain park. There's so many different people, different skill levels, different intentions. So a few years ago, I was skiing at Whiteface Mountain, and I got a little overconfidence and I went off a pretty large jump, and I didn't understand. I didn't know how low the ground was below me. I saw the jump itself, but I didn't know what the opposite side looked like. I got quite a bit of air and busted my ass, pretty catastrophically. And I had a ski up the hill and a ski over there. I had a full-on yard sale. And I'm sitting there on the ground just trying to register what happened. And at the same time, there's snowboarders flying off of this jump and almost hitting me, so I had to move quickly because they can't see me. So there's so many different personalities. They have the skill level to be able to master it. Me, I didn't know it was on the other end of the jump. I crashed. So when those two different personalities mesh, luckily nothing happens. Something catastrophic could happen. So that is a really good point that you make on that.
So we're trying to allow people to have fun.
Yep.
But do it in a safe manner.
That's Willard Mountain's priorities, being the coolest little ski area and most of all being fun.
Good.
Thank you for joining me today, Chic. This was a phenomenal conversation, an amazing dialogue. I was very curious about the dynamic of owning a ski mountain as something that I've actually always dreamed of. When I was younger, I wanted to own a ski mountain. I live on a smaller mountain in Brunswick, Wall Mountain. I envisioned converting that into a ski mountain and operating myself. When I was like 8, 9 years old, I was always a little entrepreneur. The gears were always turning. So being able to talk to you today about that was pretty fulfilling, getting a good understanding of it.
Good. And hang on to those to those dreams.
Yes.
It can and does happen on a regular basis. There are a lot of ski areas that the next generation needs to step up and grab hold of with some passion and some good hard work ethics and carry us on into the next generation.
Yeah, it's needed to preserve them. And I mean, I'm going to be a warm weather guy, so I don't know if I'm going to cling to that dream. But you know, I would entertain later on after spending X amount of years down south buying one, because it is seasonal. Then you go back down. It's something to think about. You know, you always have to have that open mind. You always have to entertain different strategies, different ideas.
Just remember, down south it's too hot in the summer.
No, it's not. There's no such thing as
just
too
stay
hot.
here.
There's no such thing as too hot. There's no such thing as too tan either.
You're like my our oldest daughter. She would mimic that sentiment exactly.
She'd resonate with that, yeah?
Yeah.
Does she live down south?
No.
She's still up here?
Central New York, where we're from.
But she's a warm body.
Very.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things, and I used to love the cold, and now, like I discussed in the intro, and now I'm allergic to it, and I have to escape, but I'll never forget where I came from either. And this was one of my foundational pieces. I'll never forget Willard Mountain. This was where I learned to ski, and it truly is an amazing mountain, so thank you for keeping it what it is.
Thank you.
You might want to get that quote out.
I will.
Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.
Hey, I wanna be a rock star.